Fraction computation is problematic for most middle school students, both here in Virginia and across the United States. We have with us today Dr. Ina Gross from Virginia Commonwealth University. Ina, what basic understandings should middle school students have about fractions before they ever even start computation?
Well, of course, the most important idea that students need to know is the size of a fraction and where it is on a continuum from 0 to 1. Is it close to 1 whole? Is it close to a half? Is it close to 0? They also need to be able to take a fraction number and write it in very different ways and be able to break it apart. So for instance, if we look at a number line and we have it marked off from 0 to 1, we can ask students to decide on where a fraction would go. For instance, if we have 1/5, I'd want students to be able to tell me that that's a very small fraction and that would be close to 0. So I would put 1/5 right there. I would hope that they would know that 3/4 is larger than 1/2, it's less than 1 whole, but even more importantly, that it is halfway between 1/2 and 1 whole. 3/7 is an interesting fraction. It's not quite a half, but it's pretty close. So it would fit very nicely right here. And of course, 7/8 is a fraction that students see all the time. And we know that 7/8 is close to 1 whole. Matter of fact, it's halfway between 3/4 and 1 whole. And so 7/8 would be about here. So our goal would be to give students plenty of opportunity to work with number lines, whether it is one on a sheet of paper like this, or even a whole classroom number line that you could make out of a clothesline and have kids put numbers on the number line and keep it up all year long.
Good idea.
Now, if you want students to be able to break numbers apart, for instance, you want students to be able to add 1/2 and 3/4 together. They may want to look at breaking up the 1/2 and say, well, gee, I know 3/4 is close to a whole, and all I need is another 1/4 to get to my whole, so I can break up my 1/2 to be 1/4 and 1/4, and now I have 1/4 plus my whole, and I have my same answer. So I can break up either the 3/4 or the 1/2, and it really depends on which fraction I'm most comfortable with and which ones I have many more names for.
Next, we'll have Dr. Gross taking us deeper into fractional computation.